Module 6, Final Review and JSTL. The JSTL topic just for your optional reading. Yeah. So I do not put in the final, and I will not give it for quiz 6. Yeah. So I will send you a message telling you how do I plan to do for quiz 6. All right. Part A, quiz 4 questions and EL examples. Part 8.1, questions of quiz 4. I will use 2 videos. The first part, we do the first 5 questions. The second part, we do the remaining 5 questions. All right. The first question, if a Java bean does not have the default constructor. Here, I hope you know this concept, the default constructor concept. It is still possible that this Java bean can be used as a valid bean in a JSP page. Answer is true, because possible, right? So there is a possibility it can be used as a valid bean. The reason is simple. The reason is it can have no arg constructor. Okay, so there is a constructor called no argument. So no arg constructor. So what's the difference? The default constructor, no arg constructor. Yeah, so I want to explain this. Default constructor, first, it's invisible. You cannot see it. So that's why it's default. You cannot see it first. The second, compiler provided. Okay? Compiler. Yeah. When you write that Java class, you do not give any constructor. Okay? You do not give any constructor. It's okay. Some of the Java classes, you may not give any specific constructors. But for a Java class, it must have a constructor to be used in any program. Yeah, it must have a constructor. So in that situation, the compiler will provide a default constructor because it's so simple. So the default constructor, just the class name, parentheses, no argument, do nothing, right? So that's the default constructor. All right. But the user or the programmer, if you provide your own no arg constructor, yeah. So here I go. That the compiler won't provide you the default constructor because you already have your own constructor. Yeah. So in that situation, your bean can still be used in our JSP page because you have this. If you do not have that, then your bean cannot be used. Okay? All right. So if you do this, you provide a constructor with args. Suppose with args. Okay? You do not have any constructor. You do not have any no arg constructor. You have some constructor with args. In that situation, the compiler does not provide you the default constructor because you already have some constructor. No matter it is with arg, no arg, you have some constructor. In that situation, the compiler won't provide you any constructor. But because you only have constructor with args, you don't have any constructor with no arg case, then your bean cannot be used. Your class cannot be used in a JSP page because the server cannot use it to create an object. The server cannot use it to create an object. So that's the problem. So I hope you get this kind of, relationship clear. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's the first question. Second question. In a Java bean, it is allowed that it could have an instance variable, right, whose name is different from any of its properties. True. Yeah. The reason, let me explain the reason. Instance variable, typically, it's a private, right? Typically, we want to make it private because we want to protect our data. So it's a private variables, instance variables. Yeah. All right. Then, for the properties, regarding the properties, we need to use public setters and getters to access them. Okay, to access them. Yeah. So the properties are determined by their corresponding setters and getters. They already usually, properties and instance variables, usually they have the same names, but not necessary. Yeah, the example is like this. Example, here I just use a simple example. Okay. Suppose you have an instance variable called a private string first name. All right, so because private, so nobody can see it. Okay, yeah. So when the JVM, so when the container, so when they use this object, they cannot see this private instance variable. So that's the reason data protection. Yeah, private. Yeah. All right, but when you talk about property, you want to expose properties to outside environment. So then you can do communication with outside environment. If you hide your properties, then you cannot do any communication through those properties. Yeah, for that reason, so you use the public setters getters for outside communication. All right. So when you do that, now here let me give an example. Suppose you have setter, you call set f name, first name, so we make it simple as f name. Okay, getter get also f name, for example. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Things like that. Then your property name is called f name, because these public methods are exposed to outside environment. So outside environment can see set f name, get f name, but they cannot see the first name instance variable. For that reason, your property corresponds to this set, this setter, getter. The property name is, the capital is the, for the rule. Yeah. So the property, we will use lowercase, lower the first character. So f name. So that's the property name. Okay, yeah, but not that first name. Okay, nobody can see that first name. Okay, so that's the concept. Yeah. Question number 3. In a Java bean, if a method does not start with get, it cannot be used as the getter of any of its properties false. Why? There is a special case. It does not start with get, start with is. Is, remember, is int. Okay. Because this method returns Boolean variable. Boolean variable, you have two options. You can start with get. You can also start with is. Because if you use the is, why people like to use is? Because when your property has the Boolean value, it is compatible with the human logic. is something true or false? Is integer true or false? Okay? Is string true or false? Okay? Yeah. Is something true or false? So in that way, in your thinking, so you feel better usually. So that's the reason. But based on the rule, it's perfectly okay. Get int, get string, But if you use that name, it looks weird. Okay? Yeah. But for this question, you just know there is a, this is case. Yeah. All right. So that's question number 3. Question 4, in order to make a Java bean use a distributed, this is, quite special, distributed web application, you must make this Java bean serializable. Answer is true. Yeah. Why? Here, distributed, this condition is critical. Yeah. So what do you mean distributed? Yeah. You have one application. This application, you divide it into many parts. Each part you put in a different server at different location. So it's not on the same machine. On different servers, different locations in the world. Yeah. That happens frequently. Yeah. So it's especially for, big companies. So they have huge system. So they need to build distributed systems. Yeah. In that situation, think about your Java bean. Java bean is an object, right? So when you send your data from one location to another location, right? You need to send the data, right? Yeah. Then you have the problem. Because those servers at different locations, they may use different operating system, different computer hardware machines, software, hardware, so all different. How can you make, the Java objects, the object in the binary code, right? The binary object code. How can you send binary Java objects to different locations using different hardware, software in the world? The only way you can make that work without any problem is serializable. Yeah. So that's the Java team create this concept, serializable concept. Okay. If you follow the rules, specifications of serializable, so you don't need to know the detail. Yeah. There are a set of rules. If you follow those rules, usually compiler will check those rules. Yeah. So then your Java bean, your Java objects will have no problems to be used anywhere in the world, any hardware, any software, But that's for distributed system. Yeah. But on the other hand, if it's not distributed system, okay, so you only run your web application in one single machine. You do not send your Java objects to, through a network to other places. Only your own machine, the same machine. Then if it is not serializable, it's okay. Because there is no communication issue, right? Yeah, there is no communication issue. Hardware, software, software, some, different types. Yeah, you won't have that problem. Okay. Yeah. So that is the serializable concept. Yeah. All right. Yeah. The last question of this video: in order to use a Java bean in the JSP supporting the data binding feature, you have to follow those rules for setters and getters for the properties involved in the data binding. Yeah. First, let me briefly describe this data binding, this meaning, another time. Okay, data binding. How do you bind the data between what two objects, right? between two different objects. Yeah. One side is this. Yeah. HTTP request parameters. You know that, right? You know HTTP request parameters. Yeah. In key value pair, right? Parameters sent in key value pairs. So, you know, yeah. Name or name value pairs. Yeah. All right. So the other side, Java Bean properties. Okay. Yeah. Many times you need to do data copies between them. Okay. From parameters to Java Bean properties, one way. Another way, from properties to request parameters, you know, two-way data copy. Okay, so that data copy. So data binding means that kind of data copy automatic. Yeah, automatic data copy. Data copy between these two sides. Okay, yeah. All right. How to make the data copy automatic? Yeah. You need to provide setters, getters for those properties first, and follow the rules. Follow the specific rules related to setters and getters. Yeah. Then the container, yeah. The server, the container, so it knows how to use setters, getters to do the data copy automatically. Okay, so for example, for this way copy, use setters. Yeah, because you have the parameter values. Now you copy the values to certain properties. So you use setters. Yeah. The other way, you use getters. So you retrieve property values, then you copy to the, parameter values, certain parameter values. All right, yeah, all right, so that's the data binding concept. So we finish the first video. Next one, we will complete the remaining 5 questions.